Hello, good morning. It is Morning Coffee with Steve, episode 201 for Friday, October 11th, 2024. This is your daily show. I'm Steve Saylor. This is your daily show of gaming news, accessibility news, or updates about my life. I have iced coffee in my PlayStation mug today. Yep. Always. This is why I call my show Morning Coffee with Steve. I just love a cup of coffee in the morning. I love starting my day with it. I love looking at this is what kind of the impetus of this is. I love looking at news stories of gaming news stories in the morning and with a cup of coffee. I've with some lo-fi music going. This is like my perfect sort of morning, and I get to do this every single morning with y'all. So anyway, I just love it. I just love it. Anyway, I hope you are doing well. Hope you had a good week. Can't believe it's October. I know we're 11 days in, but it's already feeling like this is a lot. It's already the end of the year. Oh my goodness. Just as a heads up for housekeeping, I've been doing the show literally every single weekday, including on holidays whenever they pop up. But I'm going to take a little bit of a liberty of I am going to skip this coming Monday episode-wise, or show-wise, because it is actually Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend. And I decided, because I'm going to be going home to spend time with family, I'm not going to put pressure on myself to try to be able to get an episode out on Monday. So I'm taking the Monday off. I'll be back again on Tuesday with a brand new episode. I know. I've been keeping up with the daily episodes, but I need to take. I feel like this is gonna be a good time to sort of take a break and move on, and we'll just pick it up again on Tuesday. All right. Hopefully that's okay. All right. Let us jump into. Actually, I want to start with this segment first before I jump into the news, because this segment refers to the story of the first story that we have for today. But I want to jump back into what is Steve playing section. I jumped back into Metaphor ReFantazio last night, and I think I got to experience my first dungeon, as it were. By the way, I've been playing the demo, the prologue demo that's available, which I love a lot, because that is a good accessibility thing. Because I've always said demos are great because it allows us to be able to try out the game before we want to be able to purchase it. That's just the general consensus overall. But for disabled players, being able to try a game for free in a demo form to see whether or not there's any accessibility in there that is worth trying out, and if there is, great, then we can actually be able to, we potentially might want to be able to purchase the game. But if there isn't, then there's no money lost. It's kind of I call it the disability tax, as it were, is that you have to buy a game in order to be able to figure out what accessibility is in it. We're trying to change that. I really, really need the industry to be like, hey, can we talk about accessibility before launch? Because out of all the stuff of promoting the game, sure, you want to get people to be able to buy a game, but if you don't have accessibility, that's not talking about accessibility is not talking about, or okay, for instance, actually, this is probably a good example. You're going to buy a car, okay? And you hear about all of the, you hear about all the cool features about what the car has. You hear all about what type of mileage it has, whether it's electric or gas, or it's a hybrid, or, what kind of power is in the engine and stuff like that. You need to know those things in order to be able to purchase a car, right? That's what it's like when you have accessibility info. Having that list of okay, this is what the mileage is like, blah, 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 blah. That's learning about the accessibility. Otherwise, if we didn't have that knowledge before we purchased, the only information that we get about said car is the color and how it looks, and maybe a cool software feature. That's it. That's all we get. So instead, it's you go to a car lot and say okay, I see the red one. Red one looks cool. I don't know if it will drive the way I need it to. That's like, imagine if we didn't have that information. We didn't have any of the specific engine or the type of energy or gas capacity, whatever. That's what it's like for not getting accessibility info. So let's go into a bit of a tangent, but I want to talk about at least Metaphor. It's not the best as far as accessibility is concerned. I will admit to that. The more I keep playing, the more stuff I find out about the gameplay and how I wish it was a little bit better for accessibility. There's some good accessible design decisions that are in there, but not enough to be able to be like, this will be fully accessible for a lot of players. I think probably deaf and hard of hearing potentially, but for a lot of, and maybe motor as well because of the turn-based. But for blind for blind and cognitive, I think that might be a lot. So anyway, I am still playing it. I hit my first dungeon. I believe it's my first dungeon. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the first dungeon, essentially, if you're played it already or played the demo, is it the mine? Hopefully the mine is like the first dungeon, because I didn't realize it was until I got to a spot where they're like, oh, there's these rest points. You can be able to kind of, you can rest up if you need to and chat with your characters. And then you can be able to find these in the different dungeons. And it was at that point that I realized I was actually in one. I didn't think that was the case. So that's why I'm like a bit confused. Let me know if I'm wrong or if I'm right. But yeah, it just seems, what I like about the game is that no matter what, it's always directing you where to go or what to do next. It's not like just opening up the world and being like, okay, go nuts. It might do that at some point, but I like that for right now. Every time I think about, okay, it's going to open up and be like, okay, now I have to decide on what I want to be able to do, where I want to go. Every time it does that, or every time I think about that, there's always something that comes up immediately that you have to do. And I like that about especially for a game that's this long. It feels like you are constantly doing something. You're constantly moving forward instead of just letting you sort of basically go at your own pace. I mean, I would love to be able to go at my own pace. I don't mind that in games, but I don't know if this is a staple of Atlas games, but I like the constant moving forward with the story, at least in this game. I was able to reach to the point where I guess the election kind of had started to a certain degree, I guess, in the demo. I'm trying to do this without spoilers, but it's after a specific event, that basically, yeah. I'm trying to really dance around in spoilers, but I don't know what's a spoiler and what's not, so I don't really want to go into it. But there's a particular event that's in the beginning of the game, or not the beginning of the game, but there's a particular event that you're going to at the beginning of this game that I've reached just past that. So I'm liking it again still so far. And this is after 3-4 hours in now. I know there's a lot more games still to play, and I don't even know how far this game is going to get until the demo's done. But so far, I'm loving it. I'm loving the story. I'm now understanding a little bit more about the archetypes and leveling those up and what it could be able to do. I'm also now starting to figure out strategy in combat, because before it was basically just hack slash, use special powers or use special magic, whatever, and then you're done, and you don't have to worry about any of the enemies sort of hitting you to a point where you need to think about strategy. But I got to a point in, I think, at the end of the mines where there were particular battles where I had to sort of think about, okay, what do I need to do? What kind of strategy do I need to do? Okay, do I heal up this person now, or do I let my other character heal, and then also let the other characters basically just be the sort of the tanks and just trying to keep attacking them? It's kind of, now that strategy is starting to kind of come into play, and I'm really looking forward to be able to unlocking new spells, so that I can be able to help out in certain situations. Because right now, a lot of the spells I currently have, it's only one or two, are mostly offensive. So I want to get a few defensive spells in there, so I'm not using up a lot of items. So that's that. Look, I'm starting to understand the mechanics and the systems within this game that at first it was sort of just a very straightforward story, hack and slash kind of thing. But now it's okay, I can see the strategy. So I'm hoping that I can be able to learn a little bit more. That's not going to be too intimidating. I like the slow drip of it as I keep going, because it can be a lot. It is a lot of information thrown at you, but I think in a certain way it is done to a degree that I personally am able to keep up and keep am interested in. So it kind of like because you're not fully unlocking everything right at the very beginning. You're kind of sort of fed that to you over the course of the first few hours, which I really do like. So so far I'm liking it a lot. Not really great accessibility wise. I may or may still not to do. I probably will do a proper review once I kind of get a few more hours in. But expect a separate video for that. All right, but let us jump into the news, as it were, because this new story. This first one does talk about Metaphor, and it is coming from VGC, written by Jordan Miller. Metaphor ReFantazio sells 1 million units on its first day, Atlas claims. In a press release, Sega claims... Oh, actually, I can probably switch over to the story. I always keep forgetting I can do that now. In a press release, Sega claims that the newly released Atlas RPG achieved its global cumulative sales of 1 million units, which it says consists of the total number of physical unit shipments and downloadable unit sales. When Persona 5 was released in Japan, it sold 500,000 units during its initial month. When the game was later released worldwide, Atlas claimed at the time that Persona 5 shipped 1.5 million units during its launch month. Prior to this, the company's largest game was Persona 4 Golden, which as of 2014 had sold 800,000 units. The game has since been released on modern platforms. Metaphor ReFantazio was released today, that's as of yesterday, for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. VGC's 5-star review called it another unforgettable RPG from the Persona creators. Metaphor makes us very excited for the future of Atlas, we wrote. While we can't wait to return to the streets of Japan for Persona 6, the emergence of Metaphor ReFantazio is a new franchise right alongside it means that the future looks even brighter for the developer. I like this a lot. Again, I think it's my personal opinion as to why this sold extremely well on its first day was, I think, the intimidation factor of Persona offsetted with the immensely critically acclaimed reviews of that series. Because when I remember when Persona 4, Persona 5, I wasn't really interested, like I didn't know really much about Persona 3 when it came out, but when hearing about Persona 4 for the first time, Persona 4 Golden, then Persona 5, Persona 5 Royal, like every time I heard about a Persona game, it was highly recommended from a lot of people, friends of mine, and including people in the industry. And it was but it was always a series that intimidated me because I didn't know where to start. I keep talking about that. It's like, I don't know which one is the best way to do it, because everyone has different opinions as to which one. People say Persona 3 Reload is the better one because it's a little bit more, it has the more modern stuff from Persona 5, but also people keep saying Persona 5 Royal is probably the best one because that's the most modern of all the three. And then, but people keep saying Persona 4 Golden is extremely well done. Like, it's just no one has a consistent where to start in Persona if you're a noob to this kind of genre and series. But what goes back to my theory is that I think the reason why the Metaphor has hit more, like really quickly, more than Persona did when it was Persona 5 and Persona 4 when it launched, was because I think a lot of fans were like myself, where, okay, I want to play a Persona game, but I don't know where to jump in. Okay, this is the first one in the new franchise. Maybe this might be the one to jump into. And I think that plus the massively amazing reviews, it's still sitting, I think, at a 94 on Metacritic. It is one of the biggest, the highly acclaimed games of the year, and probably is going to be game of the year contender for some folks. I think that and plus also the demo really helped out, I think, a lot. I think probably, a combination of people want to jump into a new franchise. They can, because it's the first one in the series, but it's with the same style of that Persona has. Plus also the demo really kind of gave people enough of a taste of the game to warrant buying it. And The fact that it sold 1 million units on its first day, that's very rare. That is extremely rare. We hear about, games selling, like literally Star Wars Outlaws sold 1 million copies, not on its first day. And yet Ubisoft thinks that it's a failure. Anyway, that's going to another different tangent altogether. But anyway, congrats to the Atlas and what is I can't remember. It's like something Zero, Studio Zero or something like that. Whatever the studio is that also helped worked on this from former Persona developers. Congrats. It looks like that obviously what you've been working on is extremely like the highly acclaimed reviews are mostly deserved. I think actually pretty much almost all deserved because I've been playing it a lot too. Anyway, all right. So jumping in, there was some news that kind of like we kind of talked about a little bit. And I'm waiting for here we go, the page to load. Well, we didn't really talk about this specifically, but it's already been kind of out and about. Like, if you've already heard about this, I apologize, but this was a couple of days, like 2 days ago, Nintendo announced this sort of secret playtest that they were going to do with Nintendo Switch Online, and the story that I have today is Nintendo, like from IGN by Whistly and Poole. Nintendo asked players to please not talk about its mystery Switch Online playtest when it goes live, and we all know how that's going to go. Nintendo is asking those who successfully signed up for its mysterious Switch Online playtest not to reveal what it is once it goes live. The nature of the Nintendo Switch Online playtest program, which involves a 2.2 gigabyte download and runs from October 24th to November 6th, is unknown. But ahead of the test, Nintendo is sending successful applicants documentation that includes various requirements, as revealed by Twitter user Oatmeal Dome. Oh, people's usernames are crack me up. The documentation includes a request that you do not discuss or disclose content from either the Nintendo Switch Online playtest program, test software, or website with others. And they show actually I guess Oatmeal Dome has the screenshot of this information. Once you click to participation page at the bottom of the page, agree to the Nintendo Switch Online playtest program terms and conditions, and complete the participation registration, your download code for the test software will appear. Important, we request that you do not discuss or disclose I thought disclose was spelled wrong. Disclose content from either the Nintendo Switch Online playtest program, test software, or website with others. Please do not pass your download code for the Nintendo Switch Online playtest program on to others. As many of you have already pointed out across social media, it seems unlikely that all who gain access to the playtest will keep quiet about its nature. Rather, it seems likely that as soon as it starts, the entire internet will know what it's all about. Signups went live on Thursday morning, which was yesterday, and the playtest quickly filled up. Now fans have to wait until October 20th, when Nintendo has said it will reveal more information to learn what the program is all about. Speculation around the program is already rampant, with some suggesting it might usher in the return of the Miiverse. Others have wondered whether it might have something to do with Nintendo Switch Online retro games, such as the release of GameCube games on the service. Crucially, Nintendo appears to want playtesters to play docked and with a strong internet connection, which has sparked speculation that Nintendo is testing a cloud-based streaming service for Switch games, similar to the kind offered by Xbox, PlayStation, and Nvidia. The big question, of course, is whether this test has something to do with the upcoming Switch 2, which Nintendo has yet to formally announce. The official Nintendo playtest page mentions more information will be revealed on October 20th, which fans have already said lines up with the anniversary of the original Switch reveal, October 20th, 2016. Oh, I didn't actually know that. Interesting. Here's the thing that I find hilarious about this. Is that why if they were serious about not letting people talk about what the playtest is, why didn't they have anybody sign an NDA? I mean, in the industry, we sign NDAs all the time. If you don't know what an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. It's a thing. It's a legal document that you sign, that you partner up with the company or the person in question, and you basically sign that whatever it is that is to be revealed to you, that you do not disclose it to anyone, and you sign that. That is and if you break NDA, it's not like you're going to go to jail for not breaking an NDA. I mean, sometimes you can if it's something that is extremely sensitive information. In the gaming industry, you're not going to go into jail if like, I don't know, actually you could be sued. That's probably the main thing that will happen. But essentially, there are people that unfortunately break NDAs all the time in the gaming industry. And if you notice that a lot of times whenever it's content creators that do it, or people just in the industry, and they break those NDAs, oftentimes they're the ones who are basically going to be blacklisted across the entire industry, because then they can't be trusted with sensitive information. Everyone in the gaming industry who gets a review copy or a preview of a game, they generally have to agree to an embargo date that they're promising not to be able to talk about said information until a specific date. And it's kind of like the basic sort of embargo, it's an embargo that we kind of agree to. It's not something we sign. NDAs are a little bit more for specific information that's not released to the public. And the sort of the embargo agreement for reviewers and for content creators and stuff like that for previews, oftentimes it's just you have to say, I agree to said embargo for this date. And that's often the case with whenever I get a review copy, there are times I basically have to email back saying, before I can get the code, and say I agree to said embargo. And that's kind of as close to as a written signed agreement as possible, without actually having to go through the NDA process. And I'm kind of curious as to why Nintendo, I don't know, it's why they're being secretive about this, and also why I guess that they, I don't know, it's one of those, they must know that they're damning themselves by doing that, by just only saying that. That there's gonna be people that have never signed an NDA before, that have no idea what that is, or have never had to do with embargoes before, and are just gonna talk about it as soon as they figure out what it is. That's the difference between working with professionals and then just working with people in general. I get it, they have to do a playtest of something, but it seems weird that it's just that secretive. I don't know. I mean, I get why they need to do this playtest, because they probably need as many people as possible to try to test things out before they're ready for launch, and they need to kind of make sure that what they have, the basics, to iron out any bugs. That's why a lot of games go into either early access or betas. Essentially, betas, open betas, are kind of like one of those, hey, you give us a try, and we're trying to be able to figure out how the game is going to work, how it's going to work with our servers, what kind of load it's going to need to take with X amount of players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It just seems that I think Nintendo's kind of almost shooting themselves in the foot. We're going to know, bookmark October 20th. We're going to find out exactly what that is, what this playtest is by then. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. What I think it is, I think it might be a voice testing option. I think you would need, because, well, maybe not, because it does, I don't know, does it have a built-in microphone? I don't ever know. I don't think it did. But I think it was but they don't mention anything about headset, so maybe not. I was thinking about a voice chat instead of having to use an app specifically. But I think the speculation that's down here in the bottom of this article. So might usher in the return of the Miiverse. That's a good potential. Could be Nintendo Switch Online retro games, because there are a few GameCube games that would need multiplayer. For instance, obviously, Smash Bros on the GameCube would be, if they put that up on Nintendo Switch Online. I don't think it will. Because they've already got a pretty definitive version of Smash Bros. But people prefer the older ones. I think basically having a multiplayer version or some multiplayer games, I think they're going to need to be able to test that out, obviously, to make sure that the multiplayer is working and the servers are okay, especially on the Switch. I think this is probably, or this could also potentially be a thing for the Switch 2, and they're testing it out. I think probably I'm leaning towards more multiplayer specifically, or anything Switch 2, or it could be, that the streaming service that is mentioned here, that could potentially also be a thing too. There's I don't want to say that there's a lot of smoke when it comes to Nintendo doing a streaming service, but they have had a few games that are cloud-based only. So I'll be very curious. Again, I think we're going to find out pretty soon, but I love basically just the title of this article. Nintendo asks players to players to please not talk about its mystery Switch online playtest when it goes live, and we all know how that's going to go. All right. Which story do I want to go to next? Just because we already are 24 minutes in. Let's just end with I'm debating between an Xbox One or Red Dead Redemption one. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do Red Dead. Oh well, I'm debating. You know what? I'll just let's quickly do Red Dead Redemption. Because I'm just a big fan of Red Dead. Red Dead Redemption PC price confirmed as pre-orders go live. Pre-orders went live today for the highly anticipated PC port of Red Dead Redemption, finally revealing the cost at $49.99. This is by Alex Stedman at IGN. That's the price listed across Steam, the Epic Games Store, and Rockstar's own website. On Thursday, that $50 will get you the complete single-player experience of Red Dead Redemption and the Undead Nightmare expansion, as well as bonus content from the Game of the Year edition. It does not, however, include multiplayer. That's a bummer. Rockstar finally announced earlier this week that the PC version will arrive on October 29th, a full 14 years after Red Dead Redemption first launched on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 back in 2010. In addition to the aforementioned content, it'll also include the following features: native 4K resolution and beyond, up to 144 Hz on supported hardware, monitor support for both ultra-wide 21:9 and super ultra-wide 32:9 monitors, full keyboard and mouse support, upscaling technology support for NVIDIA DLSS 3.7 and AMD FSR 3.0, NVIDIA DLSS gift frame generation, adjustable draw distance, shadow quality settings, and more. I am in love with Red Dead Redemption. I remember playing it for the first time when it was back in 2011, I think. Yeah, it was 2011. I got a 360 for Christmas one year, and I think either I bought it or whichever. I can't remember which. And one of the games I bought was Red Dead Redemption, and I remember fondly that it came with a large map. And I opened up the map for the first time. I was like, "Oh, this map is huge!" And I started playing it over the holiday break, that kind of break in between Christmas and New Year's. And I was actually sick at the time, and so I was like, I needed something to be able to play to kind of keep my mind off of being sick and just trying to be able to do something instead of just lying in bed all day. So I basically just had a chair and played video games all day. And I remember I just couldn't put it down. It was one of those games that I just I sat in front of my TV, and this is like a giant, like 20, because at the time like a 32-inch tube TV. No, actually might have been, yeah. I think it was about like, it was decent sized TV. It was one that was heavy. It was extremely heavy. And I remember sitting right in front of it, and I just fell in love with Westerns, basically. Kind of like, I'd already had a love of Westerns. I was watching quite a few at that time, and I was starting to get into it, but that's what drew me to it at first. And then when I started playing, I was like, yeah, this solidified it. It was such a good story. I just loved the characters, the world, everything about it. And it took me a long time to be able to play Red Dead Redemption 2, because unfortunately it just wasn't accessible for me at the time. Not to say that it got better, but it was just one of those, I stopped after a bit. Basically, I think for a lot of people who played Red Dead 2, I think you understand where I kind of stopped. It was shortly after basically these chapters 2 started, when you're kind of like in the camp and you're near the town of Strawberry. Essentially, that long chapter took a long time for me to be able to like, I was like, I just stopped after that. I was like, it's kind of slow. And the lack of accessibility just wasn't enough, like wasn't great for me. At the time when I was playing him, I was playing it like on a 42-inch TV, and then it wasn't really the best way to be able to play it. But a year later, I picked it back up again. I was like, I'm determined to be able to get through it and get through that second chapter. And when I did, it was like, yep, couldn't stop putting it down. Couldn't stop playing it. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So to see this Red Dead Redemption coming back on PC, I'm going to pre-order this. Actually, I'm going to see what the price is. I'm going to see what the price is for Canada, because it's $50 US. It looks like $69.99. $70 US. Love that. $70. That's, you know, that's cheap. That's $20 cheaper than what the regular price games are in Canada. Normally, a lot of like full price games, they're like $20, or no, sorry, they're about like $93 Canadian. So to see this is like $69.99. Nice. And it comes with everything. It comes with like Undead Nightmare and all the DLC stuff. I think I might need to pick this up because I definitely would love to be able to play this. And also, is it going to be Steam Deck compatible? Let's see. Doesn't say specifically. Oh, Steam Deck compatibility unknown. Okay, so we'll have to wait to be able to see if that's going to work. But anywho, that is going to be it for today. I want to thank you all for watching and for playing watching and or listening. That's what I was meant to say. And that's that. Yeah, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Once again, just a reminder, I will not be back again on Monday. I will be back doing another episode on Tuesday, so make sure you like and subscribe so you can be able to get this right when Tuesday hits. Yeah, I hope you have a great weekend. If you're in Canada, hope you have a great Thanksgiving weekend, and I will see you all on Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.